Something was eating my chickens. Posted to r/nosleep by 02321. For the past 2 years, something has been eating my chickens. I live on a farm with miles separating my neighbors. Due to me getting on in years, I've had to sell some of the lands and only keep enough I can handle by myself and a few hired workers. The chicken are for eggs only. That didn't make me be any less pissed off every time I check on their coop to find it torn apart, blood and feathers everywhere. In all these years, I have yet to figure out the culprit. There is a decent amount of wildlife that could be doing it. At first, I thought it was some coyote or fox getting into the coop. Then I figured that some human must be doing this. Every time the chickens are killed en masse, a creepy figure made of chicken bones appears on my doorstep. The handmade charms of bones look like a person attached to a star. I burn them every time. That shit creeps the hell out of me. After the second time it happened, I looked around for chickens who were old or needed to be put down. I wasn't going to keep buying birds to be slaughtered. I purchased ones that were meant for death soon either way. I adamantly refused to stop having chickens before I figured out who the hell was killing them. I'd set up those little spy cameras, convinced I would finally get answers. Those cameras just stopped working on the nights of the chicken killings. I asked the scrapyard to make me the sturdiest steel coop they could, only to have the damn birds just disappear from inside with no sign of the door being tampered with. I even called in the cops seeing if they would do a coop stakeout. They refused, stated they had more important things to do, and honestly, I had no proof of what was happening. It was just my word my birds kept getting plucked off by a mysterious force. I'm a sensible person. It took me a long while to consider something not human was snatching up those poor birds. When I accepted that fact, I started to spend days at the library because they had computers there. Before my wife passed away, she used ours for our finances. I'd never figured out how to use it. The damn thing at our house took so long to load up that the trips to the library was faster. A lot of the things I read sounded like bullshit. I'm not a smart man, but even I could tell all of these ghost stories and blurry monster sighting videos are fake. The weeks in the library felt like a waste. In the end, I made a very simple plan. If the damn thing wasn't human, it may be weak against silver. In my readings, monsters tended to hate it. I could easily fill my shotgun cartridges with silver pellets. Some iron, just in case. I would stay up all night, gun in my lap until the damn thing came around. I got some questioning looks at the pawn shops when I bought up as much pure silver as I could. I didn't dare tell them what I needed it for, but I got strange looks all the same. The issue was I always fallen asleep on the nights the chicken thief came. No matter how awake I felt, without fail, I nodded off, awaking in the morning to a frustrating empty coop. I thought about how to deal with that when I came across my neighbor in the drugstore when I dropped in for some snacks for my efforts. I didn't like the man even though I had no reason for it. His father owned the house but passed away, leaving it to him. Cam was a vet for a while. I'd heard he couldn't handle having to put down so many animals, so he moved back home after his father died to take a break. Overall, he was a nice guy. He still didn't mesh with me. He was a city person, and I was a country person. I tried my best to act friendly around him, but it was just a reflex to not get along. When he saw me, he gave me a smile and a wave that made me feel guilty for my unfounded dislike. "Hey neighbor. Doing anything this long weekend?" Cam asked when he approached me in the drugstore. I looked down at his basket to see some cans of some sort of soda I wasn't aware of the brand, and some chips. No beer, even though this place sold it. With all my chicken issues, I'd forgotten about the holiday coming up. No plans. I grunted, looking back at the chips trying to decide what ones to buy. They had so many damn new flavors nowadays. Why can't we just keep it simple? There is a great horror movie marathon I've been looking forwards to. I'm stocking up on energy drinks so I can stay awake for the entire thing. I stopped looking at the chips to look at Cam. I'd forgotten about that new kind of drink with all the caffeine in them. It might be a long shot, but I might as well try them. The worst that could happen is I drink too many and have a heart attack. What flavors of those drinks you recommended? There I was. After some preparation, and ready to go through with my plan. I had enough energy drinks to kill a horse and had my shotgun stocked with the silver iron pellet mixture. I doubt this entire idea would work. I still needed to try. It's not as if I have anything else going on in my life. I needed to sacrifice perfectly good chickens because I couldn't find enough unhealthy ones on such short notice. Please forgive me, girls, if I failed. The killings didn't have a set pattern. Sometimes 2 months passed between killings, sometimes 3. When it did finally happen, it was always around a full moon. A second coop was built in the yard. I was going to hide in that one all night. I could see the first coop with the birds while inside the empty one. If whatever was stealing them tried that coop first, I would shoot it right in the face the moment it opened the door. If it went to the real coop, I would wait until it was inside before rushing out gun blazing. Honestly, it was the best plan I could come up with. While making this plan, I never expecting it to be so boring. Just sitting inside a cramped space all night, eyes straining to see out of a small opening, just praying I'll see something soon so I can just go to bed. Those drinks did keep me awake though. They were far too sweet and put my teeth on edge. I would be glad when this entire thing wrapped up, and I could sleep normally and never have to drink another of these damn things. There I sat, gun in my lap, trying to keep my mind busy. Spiders and other bugs crawled across me, making me itchy and brushed them away. At least I wasn't getting bitten to hell. I only had a few days of the nearly full moon. If nothing happened in that time frame, I could sleep peacefully in my bed until the next month. I wished I had someone with me. At least then we could take turns. My son went to the city for a computer school. I started to think that was why I didn't like Cam. He reminded me too much of my son, who just left us behind for the fast pace of the city. If he would have just told me about his plans, I would have supported him. What hurt was he just went behind my back to leave, thinking I wouldn't let him go to school for something he clearly loved. I needed to stop thinking. I had to focus on the coop. I couldn't think about needless things. Although, it wouldn't hurt to call my son later. A noise made me look outside. The chickens sometimes clucked a little when they woke up and readjusted themselves. Outside, a shape came into view. I held my breath to look at it. The damn thing was only a coyote sniffing around. It dug at the edge of the coop, trying to find a way inside. I wondered if I was just blowing this whole thing out of proportion. No, I reminded myself. There was no way a coyote could have gotten inside a steel-sealed coop. Not on its own. For a moment, I tossed aside the supernatural idea. If a person was pranking me, they could have opened the coop, taken the chickens and closed it, driving me crazy trying to think how they did it. Those charms might have been made by a bored high school student just pranking an easy target. I did lock the coop, but a bored kid is nearly a force of nature. Maybe they figured out how to unlock it? Bored kid or not, if someone came by trying to kill my birds again, I was going to jump out and use my shotgun. If it was a human, I can just shoot it in the air, staring the piss out of them. I didn't even want any punishment at this point. I just wanted the damn thing to stop. Nights passed without much happening. I saw some animals, and that was it. On the last night, I feared I would need to do this entire thing next month when I finally saw the bastard taking my chickens. I was sitting in my empty coop, wide awake until I wasn't. A sudden feeling of exhaustion slammed into my body. I almost fell asleep. Forcing my eye to stay open, I chugging down the rest of my far too sweet drink and pinched my leg as hard as I could to stay awake. After a few minutes, the sugar and caffeine kicked in. I still felt tired, but I could manage. I held my breath, stared outside and waited with my shotgun heavy in my lap. I was ready to get up and run at a moment's notice. Crunching loud steps came from outside. I couldn't see what was making them just yet, but it was big. Bigger than anything I'd ever heard before. My hands wanted to shake. I needed to stay calm to put an end to this nonsense. The culprit finally came into view. I lost any kind of motivation to act when I saw it in the moonlight. The damn thing was large. It stood on two legs and with a general form of a human posture. But that thing wasn't human in the slightest. It was covered in black fur so dark it made it look like a void of space. The legs bent backwards at the knees, and massive claws shone in the dim light. Strangely enough, this thing had two large tails dragging behind it. It really looked like a classic description of a werewolf, but I couldn't confirm that was what it was, due to its face being covered. A deadly-looking snout poked out from under a sheet of fabric that covered the rest of its face. Under the fabric, it looked as if it was draped over tall pointed ears, giving it a hooded look. The hood was a grayish off-white with a simple I design painted in what looked to be blood on the front. If this damn creature wanted my chickens, it could have them. No, that wasn't the rough attitude to have. This thing, dog, beast or whatever it was, frustrated me and made me lose sleep. I could not forgive it. Even though I was on the lookout for some monster or human prankster, I did not bring a camera with me to collect proof. Like I said, I was after this whole thing to stop. I wasn't out here trying to prove that monsters were real. I just wanted to kill it and be done with it. The thing crouched down low and started to scratch something in the dirt in front of the other coop. I needed to take a chance. As silently as possible, I stood up and slipped outside, my heart beating in my ears. I could not second guess myself. I just had to face this thing and fire. If I was smart, I would have made the hole big enough for me to stick the barrel of the shotgun out to fire instead of having to leave the coop and into danger. Hearing loss from firing a gun in a small enclosed space would be better than getting mauled by this monster. Steadying myself, I raised my gun, being aware of every sound my clothing made when I move. The monster still kept its back towards me. I doubted this first shot would kill it, but I landed one it would do some damage. Just as I started to put pressure on the trigger, the beast turned its head towards me. That dark eye staring at my direction. My body froze in fear. I nearly pissed myself. When the beast stood up, I almost dropped my gun in fear. It was so tall, and its stride so long it only took 2 steps to close the distance between us. The damn thing could have killed me in seconds. I think it didn't see me as a threat. It just reached a clawed arm towards me, towards my gun. I couldn't let it take my weapon away. Finally getting shocked back into action, I let out a yelp of fear and finally pulled the trigger. The beast didn't react at first. The pellets tore into its shoulder, tearing and burning through. Embers burned around the entry points of the wounds. It didn't look like a normal shotgun injury. The beast took a surprised step back and let out a yowl that nearly broke my eardrums. The burning around where the silver pellets blasted through started to spread and keep smoldering away. Thank God I used silver. I started to get ready another shot, only to have the gun ripped from my hands. It slammed it on the ground and stomped on the barrel, twisting the metal. I thought I was dead. With another howl of pain, the beast backhanded me into the small coop behind, knocking me out for a few minutes. When I came to, my chest hurt, but strangely enough, I was alive. My eyes followed a frantic set of clawed footprints scurrying away. Black liquid I assumed was blood left a trail along with the prints away from my house. It wasn't dead, and I didn't think it would come back. Feeling a little proud of myself, I started back towards the house. Then a horrible thought crept into my mind. My neighbor Cam. The trail looked like it was running in the direction of his house. I shouldn't worry about it. The thing was injured. It wouldn't bother us. I just needed to go inside, have a shower and go to bed. After telling myself that, I found myself rushing to my truck to drive down to Cam's place. His lights were still on, and there was no sign of the monster along the drive. I jumped out of my truck, darting to his porch to pound on the door, all while looking in the darkness for any signs of the beast. It took Cam a while to answer his door. After all, it was the middle of the night. He might not have even been awake. The door opened, and the young man gave me a confused smile. He was dressed in loose sleeping clothes, but his feet were dirty. "Is everything all right? You look like you've seen a ghost," Cam said, looking me over. I didn't think of what I was going to tell him ahead of time. I just thought of a quick lie. "Don't go outside for a few nights. There's a big cat." I was not good at lying. "A cat?" he asked, humoring me. "Yeah. Like a tiger or something. You heard about my chicken problems, right? I shot at something a few minutes ago. It's hurt, and it's big. Maybe some guy bought a lion or tiger on the down low and just released it when he couldn't afford to feed it." Alright, that sounded a bit better. I was almost proud of myself. "Oh, that poor thing. Alright, I'll stay inside. You should report this right away so they can catch it. If it's not too badly hurt, maybe they can bring it to an animal rescue? Still, I'm glad you're safe and thanks for your concern over me." I couldn't sleep, so I was doing chores. I was outside taking some trash out a minute ago, so it's good I didn't run into the thing. I was pretty sure Cam was going to get angry at me for shooting it before calling some animal rescue. I guess he understood sometimes there wasn't time to take a peaceful way out, and you needed to stand your ground. Now I was stuck with the tiger story and needed to make a report. I still had those weird tracks by the coop, so maybe someone might believe me. "Do you like peaches?" Cam asked me. The sudden shift caught me off guard. "Yes. I suppose." A farm down the road was selling them really cheap but for a lot of them. "I have 10 pounds, but I don't think I'll learn how to can or jam them before they go. Here, please take some." This guy. I think I know why I couldn't handle him. He was too damn nice. After my warning, I was sent off with at least 3 pounds of peaches. I made a note to thank Cam again, and dropped by to teach him how to make jams, if he was going to buy such a massive amount of fruit again. Since that night, I've had no trouble with missing chickens. They never found the false tiger roaming around and just assumed it found a place to hide and die. The only somewhat frustrating thing to come of all of this is now people think I have a thing for silver, and people keep dumping sick chickens in my driveway to care for. Oh well. It could have been much worse.